Hello friends, you are welcome to my YouTube channel Literature Simply. Simple way to learn literature and language. My name is Datta Samant and the channel is dedicated to create content on English literature and language, and it will provide you a very easy methods and techniques of learning language and literature. So friends, like, share and subscribe the channel for coming videos. Friends, in this video we shall learn about short story. What is short story, how it is composed, what are the features of short story, and some of the famous examples of short story. So let's get started. The short story. The short story is most popular form of reading and writing nowadays, because every day there are so many short stories are published and the same are read, and you get a very great audience of the short stories. Now when we think about short story, it is a brief form of novel, we can say that, or it is opposite to novel. How it is opposite? It is opposite in length, characters, action, etc. It is a small form of novel. Again, when we think about short story, we must think about its length. Length is very important while composing or writing a short story. So while writing short story, authors have their own artistic intent or requirement, and according to that they mold their short stories. So as we have said that every day a large number of short stories are being published, and we are getting the same number of audience to the short story. So why this happen in this modern age? It is only because a short story can be read and write in one sitting only. So this is some of the background of short story. And now let's try to define short story. The short story is a work of prose fiction opposite to novel. Short in length, includes a few characters with single setting, which is meant for reading in single sitting. Now if we think about this definition, we have a few points here. It is a prose fiction. Again, we have seen that it is opposite to novel, short in length, and includes a few characters. So it is limited in its elements, we can say that. And the very feature of this short story which is included in this definition is it has single sitting, which is meant for reading in single sitting. So this is the definition of short story. Let's move forward and look at some of the features of short story so that we can understand what is short story and how it is been composed. So we have here basic features of short story. The very first feature is its length. An ideal length of a short story is 2000 to 6000 words, but short stories are not limited up to this word limit only. There may be short story with 10,000 words. Now critics has disagreements on this point, that some short stories which are to be called fine have more than 8,000 words or 10,000 words, but here we can consider that the ideal length is 2000 to 6000 words only. The second characteristic or feature of short story is plot structure. So let's understand what is plot. Plot is nothing but a chain of events, or how events happen in a story, the arrangement of events or order of events. Now in plot structure we have three significant elements. Number one is opening, the beginning of short story; middle, that is the progress of short story; and closing or ending of the short story. Now to develop a short story, author uses many types of techniques here. For example, we have some of the techniques like revelations, epiphany moments, twists, turns, ironic reversals, etc. So these kind of techniques are used in the short story. So this arrangement of events and situations are the significant part of plot structure. The third feature of short story is characters. The characters are limited in short story. There may be 2 to 6 characters, and we cannot fully develop these characters in short story because we have limitation of words, we have limitation of length. So these characters generally have fixed age, and we cannot show the full development of these characters. This is one of the features of short story. The next feature of short story is dialogues. So dialogues are very important in short story and novel as well, because these dialogues imparts reality to characters and plot. What the author wants to convey, it is through the dialogues, or we can say that dialogues are the mouthpieces of author or short story writer. So dialogues is one of the significant features of short story. The fifth feature is setting and atmosphere. So setting is related to place where events happen. So events may happen at any place in the short story, but there is a limitation. We cannot change place in short story, so it is confined to a single place. For example, a short story may progress in a hotel, at a railway station, in a house, on a sea beach, or there may be whatever the setting or place, but it cannot be changed often in the short story, so it is limited to the single setting. But there can be 2 to 4 scenes in a short story, and these scenes or these places contribute to the final effect of short story, and hence it creates a conducive atmosphere of composition in the short story. The next feature of short story is narrative technique. There are 3 types of narrative techniques, or we also can say there are 3 types of point of views of storytelling. We have first person point of view, where in this point of view character is within the story, and generally I and we, these pronouns are used to compose the short story. So here the readers get more attachment, or they get more closer to the story, because someone within the story is telling the story. The second narrative technique is second person point of view, which is rarely used in the short story, and the pronoun used with this composition of a technique is you, and it is very rarely used. And we have example of this kind of narrative technique. It is used by Tom Robbins in his short story Even Cowgirls Skate the Blue. And we also have another example, Robert Coover's Panel Game. Actually, this type of point of view is not famous among short story writers. And the third narrative technique is third person point of view, or it is also known as omniscient narrator. It is one of the very popular methods of storytelling, and here we have the pronouns used in storytelling, he, she, and they. So here the author gets freedom to comment on any situation or character, or he also gets freedom to peep into the mind of characters, and he gets full authority or complete control over the situation, and hence this type of narrative technique is called omniscient narration. Now here we have seventh feature of short story, that is theme. Theme is nothing but a central idea or central concept running throughout the story. So all elements, for example, we have characters, plot, scene, style, language, diction, etc. These elements contribute to the total effect of the short story, and it leads us to the central concept which is given in the short story, or it leads to the theme, and this theme can be stated in few words or sometimes in a single word. So this is also a significant characteristic of short story. The next characteristic is the opening. So in a short story, opening is significant because it decides the course of story and leads to the rising action. The very first 2 to 3 paragraphs are very significant. These paragraphs reveal us the characters, plot, and some of the other elements in the short story. Here we also can have flashback technique in some of the short stories, which gives us what happened in the past, and from the past this story starts. So this technique adds the effect into the story, and readers get influenced while reading the story. The last basic feature of short story is the ending or closing. So ending and closing is nothing but the revelation of all happenings, whatever happened in the course of the story, it is disclosed at the end. So here authors can use various types of closing techniques. For example, we have irony or ironical reversals, coming back to opening, change in diction, disappearance or death of hero, and it's a very significant element is last statement. So the last statement is generally confined to 5 to 6 words only, and it adds the very effect in the short story. So these are some of the basic short story features, and if we consider these features, we also can write a short story, and these features will be used to compose a short story or analyze a short story or understand a short story. So now let's move to the some of the famous short stories which you can read and understand more about short story. Here we have the very first short story written by Charles Dickens in 1886, namely The Single Man. The second example is The Happy Prince, written by Oscar Wilde in 1888. The third one is The Magic Shop by H.G. Wells, 1903. Number 4 is The Gift of Maggie by O. Henry, 1906. Number 5 is Rip Van Winkle by Washington Irving, 1819. Next one is Father's Help by Indian author R.K. Narayan, 1947. Again we have next one, Homecoming by Rabindranath Tagore. Next is The Body Snatcher by R.L. Stevenson, 1884. Number 9th is The Telltale Heart by Edgar Allan Poe, 1843. And the last one is B-24 by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, 1899. So these are very famous short stories, and there are hundreds of famous short stories, but I have listed only this. You can read the short stories and understand what is short story. Friends, I also have composed a short story called The Village Teacher, and you can read the short story on literaturesimply.com. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you need this video in the form of written material, please go to the website literaturesimply.com.